Emma believed she had the perfect marriage. 15 years by Michael's side, a beautiful house in the suburbs of Denver, 2 adorable children. But on a Tuesday afternoon, she found something that would completely shatter her world. A yellowed letter hidden at the bottom of an old drawer. The handwritten words revealed a devastating truth about the man she slept next to every night. A secret kept for decades. What Emma discovered on that piece of paper would change not only her marriage, but her entire perception of love, forgiveness, and second chances. This is the story of how a secret from the past can transform an entire future. Emma Mitchell had always considered herself a lucky woman. At 42, she had everything a woman could wish for: a loving husband, 2 healthy children, a cozy home in Littleton, a quiet suburb of Denver, Colorado. They met in college over 20 years ago. Emma was studying education and Michael was pursuing civil engineering. Romance blossomed naturally between library study sessions and shared coffees on campus. Michael had always been a man of few words, but his actions spoke for themselves. Small gestures of affection, simple surprises, the way he looked at her as if she were the only woman in the world. The marriage proposal came right after graduation. Nothing extravagant, just the 2 of them on a picnic in the park where they had their first date. "Emma, you're my best friend, my great love, my life's companion. Will you marry me?" The simple words, but loaded with sincerity, made her cry with joy. The first years of marriage were magical. Michael built a solid career as an engineer, while Emma fulfilled her dream of being an elementary school teacher. When Sophie was born, followed 3 years later by Jake, the Mitchell family seemed to have stepped out of a romantic movie. Family dinners, vacations at the grandparents' house in Colorado Springs, game nights, and popcorn on weekends. Emma frequently received comments from other mothers about how lucky she was to have such a present husband. Michael never missed a school presentation, always came home for dinner, helped with the children's homework. He seemed genuinely happy with the life they had built together. But a few months ago, Emma began to notice small changes. Michael was staying longer at the office, saying he was working on an important project. Sometimes she caught him looking out the window with a distant expression, as if he were somewhere else. When she asked if everything was okay, he always smiled and said, "Of course, my love. Just thinking about work." Emma tried not to pay attention to these small changes in her husband's behavior. All couples go through phases, she thought. 15 years of marriage was no small thing, and it was natural for there to be ups and downs. Besides, Michael had never given reasons for suspicion. He wasn't the type of man who looked at other women, never came home with strange perfume or suspicious behaviors. Actually, what intrigued Emma most was precisely the opposite. Michael seemed more affectionate than ever. He brought flowers for no special reason, helped more with household chores, hugged her longer before sleeping. It was as if he were trying to compensate for something, although she didn't know what. The children noticed too. Sophie, now 12 years old, and observant as only pre-teenagers can be, commented one morning, "Dad's being more clingy lately, isn't he, Mom?" Jake, 9 years old, just shrugged, more interested in his cereal than the subtleties of paternal behavior. Emma decided she was imagining things. The marriage was fine, the family was happy, and she was being paranoid for no reason. Michael was a good man, a wonderful father, an exemplary husband. If he was going through some difficult time at work or dealing with personal issues, he would certainly talk to her when he was ready. Then came that Tuesday in October that would change everything. Emma had left school early due to a canceled meeting and decided to use the extra time to organize the home office. Michael had asked her not to touch his things, but he was traveling on business, and she wanted to surprise him by organizing the papers accumulated on the desk. It was while looking for a stapler in the old desk drawer that her fingers touched something unexpected. A yellowed envelope hidden at the bottom of the drawer, behind piles of old documents. Something about that envelope made her hesitate, as if an inner voice warned her that some things were better left alone. Emma took the envelope and felt her heart racing even before opening it. With trembling hands, Emma opened the yellowed envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. The blue ink already faded by time. The date at the top made her hold her breath. March 15th, 1998. 2 years before she and Michael got married. "My dear Michael," the letter began, "I write these words with a broken heart, knowing they may be the last you receive from me." Emma felt the world spinning around her as she continued reading. The letter was from a woman named Isabella, and each line revealed a love story she had never imagined existed. Isabella wrote about the 2 wonderful years they had spent together, about the plans they made, about the future they dreamed of building. "I know you love me, Michael, just as I love you more than I thought it possible to love someone. But I also know your family would never accept us together. Your father made his opinions about interracial relationships very clear. And I can't ask you to choose between your family and me." Tears began rolling down Emma's face. Interracial. Michael had never mentioned any previous serious relationship, let alone something involving family pressure. She had always known Michael's parents were conservative, but never imagined they were prejudiced to that extent. The letter continued, "Therefore, I've made the most difficult decision of my life. I'm moving to Chicago next week. I got a job opportunity there, and I think it's for the best. To give you time to think, to decide what you really want for your life. If, after a year, you still feel you love me, that you want to fight for our love, find me. But if you decide it's better to follow the path your family expects, I'll understand." Emma had to sit down. Her legs seemed unable to support her anymore. The letter ended with words that made her question everything she believed she knew about her husband. "You are the love of my life, Michael Mitchell. There was never anyone before you, and I'm certain there will never be anyone after. But sometimes loving someone means knowing when to let go. I love you forever, Isabella." For a moment, Emma was paralyzed, trying to process what she had just discovered. Michael had had a great love before her, a love that was apparently prevented by his family's prejudice. This would explain why he never talked much about the period before marriage, why he avoided certain subjects about his family. But what disturbed her most was the date. March 1998. She and Michael met in September of that same year, only 6 months later. Had she been just a second choice? A relationship of convenience for a man who was suffering from having lost his true love. Emma remembered how Michael sometimes seemed distant in the first months of dating. She had always attributed this to his natural shyness, but now wondered if he was still thinking about Isabella, if he still loved her when he asked Emma to marry him. A mixture of anger, pain, and confusion took hold of her. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, an entire life built together. Had all of this started as a plan B? Did Michael really love her, or was she just the safe choice, approved by the family? Emma carefully put the letter back in the envelope, as if handling a bomb about to explode. Her hands trembled as she placed it exactly where she had found it. For now, she needed to act normally. Michael would return from his trip the next day, and she needed to decide what to do with this information. For the rest of the afternoon, Emma could barely concentrate on anything. She prepared dinner mechanically, helped the children with homework like a robot, pretended to watch television while thousands of thoughts and doubts ran through her mind. That night, lying alone in the king-size bed she had shared with Michael for 15 years, Emma couldn't sleep. She looked at the empty pillow beside her and wondered how many times Michael had lain there thinking about Isabella. How many times, when making love to her, had he closed his eyes and imagined another woman? Morning came without her having found answers to her questions. She only knew that everything had changed. The innocent trust, the certainty that she completely knew the man she had married. All of this had disappeared with the discovery of a simple piece of yellowed paper. Emma knew she needed to confront Michael, but she also knew that after this conversation, her marriage would never be the same again. Michael arrived from his trip on Thursday night, as usual, with presents for the children and flowers for Emma. But this time, she could barely pretend normalcy. During dinner, She observed his every gesture, every word, looking for signs that he was hiding something. Michael seemed tired from the trip, but genuinely happy to be home. After the children went to bed, Emma gathered courage. "Michael, we need to talk," she said, her voice more serious than intended. He immediately looked concerned, setting aside his laptop and giving her his full attention. "Of course, my love. What's wrong? Did something happen?" Emma took a deep breath and went to get the letter. When she returned to the living room, Michael still had the same worried expression. But upon seeing the yellowed envelope in her hands, his expression changed completely. The blood seemed to drain from his face. "Emma, I can explain," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "I hope you can, because I don't understand anything I read here." She placed the letter on the coffee table between them, like evidence in a courtroom. "Who is Isabella, Michael? And why did you never tell me about her?" For a long moment he remained silent, seeming to struggle internally about where to begin. Isabella was. "She was the first great love of my life," he finally began. "We met in college, senior year. She was studying architecture. She was beautiful, intelligent, funny. My parents were furious when they discovered our relationship." Emma felt a mixture of pain and anger. "And you simply abandoned her because your parents didn't approve?" "No." Michael stood up, pacing nervously around the room. "I was willing to fight for our relationship, but Isabella... She didn't want me to have to choose between her and my family. She said it wasn't fair to me." He stopped and looked at Emma. "She moved to Chicago before I even had the chance to fight for us. And you didn't go after her." Michael sighed deeply. "I did. 6 months later, when I finally gathered courage to defy my parents, I went to Chicago looking for her. But..." He hesitated, as if the next words were difficult to pronounce. "She had gotten married." Emma blinked, surprised. This part wasn't in the letter. "Isabella met someone there, a lawyer named Marcus. They got married in a simple ceremony just 4 months after she moved." Michael sat back down, looking directly into Emma's eyes. "When I saw her, she was 3 months pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma processed this new information, trying to fit the puzzle pieces together. "That's when I understood she had made the right decision," Michael continued. "She moved on, built a new life, found happiness, and I returned home with a broken heart, but also with an important lesson." "What lesson?" "That true love sometimes means accepting that the people we love are always those we'll spend our lives with." Michael leaned forward. "When I met you, a few months later, I was still hurt. But Emma, you brought light back into my life. You showed me it was possible to love again, differently, but equally deeply." Emma felt tears in her eyes. But do you really love me, Michael? Or was I just ... a safe alternative? Michael stood up and knelt before her, taking her hands. Emma Mitchell, you weren't an alternative. You were my second chance to be happy. And I've treasured every moment of these 15 years with you. Every day, every kiss, every time I held you in my arms. Everything was real. Everything was with true love. Tears now flowed freely down Emma's face. Why didn't you ever tell me about her? Because I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid you would think exactly what you thought now. That you would doubt my love for you. He squeezed her hands. Isabella was my first love, Emma. But you are the love of my life. There's a difference. Emma looked into her husband's eyes and saw the sincerity that had always been there. She also saw the vulnerability of a man who had kept deep pain for years, afraid of hurting her. Will we get through this? She asked, her voice choked with emotion. I hope so, said Michael, kissing her hands. Because I can't imagine my life without you and the children. You are everything to me. Emma pulled her husband to sit beside her on the sofa. There was still much to talk about, much to process. But for the first time in days, she felt they might find a way back to each other. Love is complex, full of layers that sometimes take us years to discover. Emma and Michael's story shows us that we all have a past, and that this past shapes who we are, but doesn't have to define our future. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's in honesty that we find the foundation to rebuild stronger relationships. What did you think of this story? Do you think Emma should forgive Michael for keeping this secret for so long? Or are there secrets that simply shouldn't exist in a marriage? If this story touched your heart, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will make you reflect on love, relationships, and life. And tell me in the comments, what city or country are you watching from? I love knowing where my viewers are. Until the next story.